Hi, I'm Allie.
And I'm Sam, and welcome back to Book Breathing Bitch Queens podcast.
Today we're going to talk about chapters 1 and 2 of A Court of Thorns and Roses. Originally, we were going to talk about 4 chapters, but we talked for a long time. So we're going to dive into a lot of things. Again, as a reminder, this is a spoiler podcast. So if you have not read the entire Massverse, you do not want to listen to this episode. So keep that in mind. The reason we talk so much is because we're bringing in stuff from all the books, right? In our first 2 chapters, okay? So here we go.
Okay, so to start the show, I have a Wed, Bed, Behead, which is a cleaner version, I guess, of Fuck, Marry, Kill. I just think it's so much more historical, one, and the rhyming scheme I enjoy. So,
I don't know why we don't already do that.
Well, you know.
Fuck, Marry, Kill sounds so clumsy.
It does. Okay, so Wed, Bed, Behead, Rowan, Rhys, Hunt.
Okay.
I have to do it. Like, I had to do it, like, right off the gate. Yep. They'll get more, like, obscure as it goes on, but I was like, this episode 1, we got to get it out the gate.
Oh.
That's a hard one.
Yeah. I mean, it feels wrong to not say Rhys, but I feel like, no, I think I'm going to pick Rhys because, okay, if I think, like, I just kind of like Rowan's vibes. I also love Hunt's vibes, but basically, I feel like Rhys is the one I would actually get along with the best. Like, I know he's kind of like powerful ego guy, but he's also kind of thoughtful, and I don't know, Kale, like the hallmark. I really don't like macho guys. When I think about Kale and our relationship, what I love is like his like not to yap at my husband constantly. I probably will do that, but whatever. You got a fangirl, a little bit. No, it's like, he was probably closest to Rhys. He's definitely like the hyper macho, which Rowan's also kind and thoughtful, but I don't know. There's something that's just a little bit more like soft emo boy about Rhys that is just, I don't know. It's a vibe. Maybe I'm just biased because it's like the guy,
No, I have a really hard time between Rhys and Rowan because I feel like the supporting role of like Rowan and being like, yeah, babe, fucking go Rain, do your thing.
That's true.
It's like really amazing. But I also know that I'm a lazy bitch. And I need a Rhys to just be like, can you just, I don't know, fucking make it happen, and I'm gonna go and paint.
Yeah,
like, I'm gonna go read my books, and you could just be the Lord, and I'm gonna go and just vibe check my fucking new city. So you answer first. Who are you killing?
Oh, I forgot we're doing the other ones. I was like, oh, okay. Oh, wait, so for some reason my head translated, I'm supposed to pick one of them. Oh, okay, yeah. Ugh. By the way, I still like Hunt. He just is kind of has the most jock energy. Yeah. But I actually love reading Hunt's sections. Okay, I'm marrying Rhys. I guess I'm betting. I'm wedding Rhys. I'm betting Rowan, and I'm beheading Hunt.
I think mine's the same. Although the wed and bed could be interchangeable, right? Like, I would be okay with wedding Rowan, and betting Rhys, especially because we get the most sort of insight into betting behavior from Rhys. So as far as like what would be the biggest bang for my buck, I suppose it would be Rhys.
Literal bang. Yeah.
So maybe that would be me. Maybe I would wed Rowan, bed Rhys, and behead Hunt.
Yeah. Dang.
Although, but you can't really bang in the sky with Rowan. And you can with the other two.
I'm cool with, like, semen not dripping onto the heads of my subjects. I'm cool with that.
Oh, geez.
That should be but
no, I love
where's
that.
it go?
I love that.
I mean, you could go somewhere, but like something that's messy. That's
it could be very messy. Yes,
it could be.
Right.
Like, yeah, you have to have like an interest in like public stuff. you know.
Yep.
But maybe they're like that, and that's why they do that. But
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you're at a high enough altitude, nobody's seeing anything, but still.
that's true. That's true.
Except for everyone else with wings.
Yeah. Oh my god, have you seen the TikToks where everyone's like, okay, in those scenes it says like, and then Reese roared the mountains, and then there's like that meme. I think it's someone drew it in like a fan art too, maybe. But it's like, well, I'll have to repost it or something. But
No,
it's like, good for my. I'm so happy for my high lord. It's like they're crouching under tables.
right. It's like the people who like live next to like train tracks where their whole house shakes when the train
Yeah.
comes around. You're just like, oh, we're just gonna eat through this and completely ignore that every single earthquake is our high lord banging it out.
4th time today for the high lord. Like, oh my god. Yeah.
They start calling him Richter.
This is why we need to write in our hyperbole sometimes.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
or make it a simile instead of a instead of a description. He roared so loud it could have shook the mountains. Because now you got some literalists being like,
right, or you know, like I don't know, yes. There's other ways to describe them.
Rowan's probably a little quieter, maybe. So maybe that's why you want a good wed. So you have to deal with that all the time.
Yeah.
Gosh,
he's a good cuddler too. Like every single book, he's just like there to be like, come here, just cuddle. I'm good with the dog and the best friend cat on the bed with us. I do love that picture too of just like Elain being curled up with Lysandra in her animal form and with the puppers, and then Rowan's like off on the side.
I haven't seen that.
It's I'll send it to you. It's very funny.
That is awesome.
Okay, so chapter 1.
Yes. Yeah, we have physical books. How exciting.
Question. Do you keep your dust jacket on when you read?
No dust jacket, paperback.
Nice.
But no, I with yours, I actually, because I read that exact copy and did not write in it or earmark it at all.
That's right, you didn't. Yeah.
And but I put your dust jacket in my bookshelf and didn't touch it until I gave it back to you, basically. But yeah, you read with it on? You're like,
no, I don't. I don't. It drives me nuts. So I usually take it off and put it in the shelf where the book goes. And then this lives wherever I am. But I was just wondering because Topher also just bought me the hard copy of the whole series. So I was like, so the dust jacket was like laying off to the side, and I was like, oh fuck, I gotta make sure I find that because now everything has to match. And I don't want to not have the dust jacket. So
that's true. I hate when I lose them, but
but then that's an excuse to like buy some really cool dust jackets off Etsy of, people being creative.
Yes. No, those are cool. I love the videos where they are redoing the book covers or whatever. They're like ripping it up and stuff.
Rebind it, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Those look sick. And they're just kind of mesmerizing. They're like the closest I get to ASMR. So I'm not one of those people that likes it, but it's getting there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, also, do you want to chat just for a second? I mean, it's not that interesting, or it is interesting, but it's like we don't have to talk about it a lot. But I do love, like, in the with each book, the map gets more stuff on it, so it doesn't like give you spoilers on the map. You notice that?
I did not notice that.
Valaris is not on this map, but it is in the later books.
Interesting.
I think the middle. The middle is obviously it's on the map, but it's not written in there. It just says under the mountain.
Yeah.
And I don't know what else would be different here. The wall spring.
Well, and we have, Hybern is there, and there's some sort of crowny thing that's there.
Crowning thing?
There's a crown. If you look at Hybern, like kind of dead center, there's a marker that looks like a crown or a cauldron, perhaps.
Maybe that's, I wonder if they all have it. Maybe that's the capital. Night Court. There is little stars on the Night Court mountains. I wonder if those are meant to be the 3.
Yeah, I would imagine that those are the 3.
There's also a little symbol on Day Court, but I don't know what it is. I can't. Oh my god! I just did the pinch. I just tried to zoom in like this. with my
On your physical
like on a
book.
phone. Oh my god. Oh,
No,
we're
it makes
cursed.
sense. So like day court has like the sun at full height, and then dawn court has the sun rising behind the mountains.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Am I
How do you know?
crazy?
Yeah, you
I'll see
are.
that.
So, right, this is not helpful, but at the very like top left-hand corner of day court, there's a little sun.
Oh, maybe you have a different version because I don't really have that.
Interesting. Yeah, I have that, and then I have like the sun is behind the mountains of dawn court on the left-hand side.
No, I don't have that.
And then I have a flower in spring court.
Yes, there is
Yeah,
a
okay.
flower in Spring Court in mine.
And then Feyre's village.
A little house in Feyre's village with an arrow. Yeah. Yeah. Although, okay, we were sort of talking, I don't know if we were talking on the 0 episode, or if this was just off the podcast. But we were talking about like the landmass, and I think it's interesting that within this, that other landmass is given an entire page.
Yes.
It's another thing that points to like this is important, even though it's not important for this book.
So, and then here was my thing, right? So we have left page is all of Prynthian and Hybern. We got like Prynthian, Mortal Lands, Hybern. And then on the on the right-hand page, we have Fairy Realms and Mortal Realm or Mortal Lands. And I was like, is this a zoom in portion of that
No,
area?
I think it's that much bigger.
Yeah. And so then when I was reading, which we'll get to, when I was reading the description that Feyre gives of her world, she's like, yeah, there's our large island, which is separated by a narrow sea to the large continent that has fjords and deserts and frozen wastelands. And then on the other side of that is the Great Ocean. And then if you look at the map in Throne of Glass, to the west coast of
the Great Ocean
is the Great Ocean.
Yeah.
So like that's the only thing that's confusing. Where I'm like, is this a different world or is this the same? Like a temporal, I guess, like right a time bound crossover with these two. But then again, it doesn't necessarily line up perfectly with Crescent City being a time bound as opposed to a different realm.
And that's we'll just keep that on the back burner because it is interesting. I think she could go for a combo, but it would be kind of hard. Also, I just noticed on my copy there's little cauldrons that are pouring the little pillars that make up the side border.
Yes,
that's
I noticed those too.
There's no word marks, making. We'll get to that description eventually, but in the description of the map, it says like the cauldron was pouring effervescent symbols, and I was like, okay, those are word marks, right?
This would be a perfect place to put the word marks, like across the top, where like there's this weird squiggly heart bullshit.
Yeah, I think so too. I realized maybe also this on the continent. Maybe we're seeing, is that Voss's Lake? Maybe. Because that's not for like several books, but maybe that's why that's there. Because it's like the only thing on the continent.
There's a big ass castle there too.
Where? Oh, there is a castle. Oh yeah. Okay. Well.
Yeah. No. Ooh. Okay.
Maybe the original books. This is like a these are the popular copies that a lot of people have. So maybe I'd be interested to see an actual like first edition map. Yeah. Maybe it doesn't have all that. Okay. Let's actually get into chapter 1. So, okay, I mean, as a little English teacher, I'm like, we got to pay attention to the first. Honestly, for the first chapter, I say the first and last line of each chapter, and also just the images and stuff. But I think it's an interesting first line. The forest had become a labyrinth of snow and ice, and that's a line by itself. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
What did you? I mean, do you have an impression of that? I mean, I don't know.
I mean, as far as like, right, we say like a hook is not a thing, and it's the stupidest thing ever to teach students is to write a hook, but like this is that, right? Like you're at least slightly interested. You've got like, cool, we're in a something's frozen, right? It's winter, it's cold, and we've got labyrinth here. Like I feel like that's already enticing.
It's the center. It's the only like it's the really notable word of the line, which is weird because it's like probably the only mention of a labyrinth we get. That I can think of.
And you're like, so we're in the forest, clearly during winter, and the forest has become a labyrinth of. So like she's in the forest. It's not like she's looking at the forest.
Yeah.
So, like, I think that it does well in one sentence to, like, literally plop us into a location.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure that's what it meant too. And to be fair, I think hooks are. I actually like hooks, but it's just with an academic essay, people just like go do stupid, insane stuff. But this
Yeah.
is a great example of like, yeah, what a hook should actually do.
Well, and I think in fiction and, like, literary, right, thing not academic writing, right, but other
Mhm.
writing, yeah, should have a hook. You should have something that's
Yeah.
gonna be like, "Why the fuck do I care?" Like, if she
Hmm.
had started the book with, "I'd been monitoring the perimeter of the thicket for
Boring.
an hour." The fuck? Where am I at? What's
Hmm.
happening? And so
Yeah.
just that one sentence already is like, "Okay, cool. Why is this person lost in a forest on a cold day?"
Hmm.
That's problematic, that's scary, right?
Yeah.
None of us wanna be lost in a forest on a winter
Yeah,
day. That sounds
really
scary.
ominous tone right from the get-go.
Yeah,
That you're right. I think the next sentence, it has like a more like, it's like with the labyrinth is like ooh, and then zoop, like okay, now
yeah,
let's get to the technical things.
yep,
But which is funny, it's still kind of the second line, but it's still that yeah, that adds like a really nice thing. I also, because snow and ice start off this book, I'm like, okay, every time I see the word snow or ice, I'm gonna write it down because it feels important, but I mean, I haven't fully developed things I've read. I do my little notes through halfway through ACOTAR, and there is some other mentions, like, we'll get to it eventually, but, I think it's really interesting that the painting that Tamlin likes is the one that's the barren snow wasteland. And then if you
yeah,
also think like mythology, like I took like a basic mythology class, but I sort of, it's very common in mythology. A lot of times cultures that are from climates that are really harsh, like a desert or somewhere northern, where it's really cold or something, they tend to have really harsh mythologies with like really, what is the word I'm looking for?
unforgiving deities?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
uncaring gods,
yeah,
cruel gods.
trickster gods for sure, right? Tricksters with, like, playing tricks on the mind and things like that, right? Like Loki and, Anansi from Africa, right? Like, they're the mirage,
Mhm,
like, deities, right? Ones that, like, if you're stuck out in the fucking elements and your mind starts to play tricks on you, it makes sense that there's those sort of trickster gods.
mhm. Dude, okay, this is a little off topic, but this morning, this is our, lovely breakfast marital conversation, was debating if Reese was supposed to be the Odin of the series.
I would fucking pay money for that to be my breakfast conversation.
And we had like a whole debate where like, okay, Bryce has to be maybe Balder, maybe Hunt is Thor.
Oh. Well, yeah, between Hunt having Thor energy and Mor literally being named after
Wait, who?
Mor, the Morgan.
Oh,
Yeah, that's a Norse mythological creature. Figure, not creature.
okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Dude, we have to do like a whole. We need to do like a mythology episode. You actually know a lot of mythology off the top of your head. I just have played like Valhalla
Yeah.
and like God of War, so like I don't really know that much. I've done some reading. I took like a mythology class, but I really don't remember a lot. You seem to have a
Yeah.
good grip on it.
Well, I mean, my undergrad is in religious studies, so
True, true, true.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, mine was stupid. It's funny.
It's not stupid.
I took an English. I have an English degree, but like literally, I didn't read Shakespeare. I like didn't read anything classic. I literally just took a bunch of creative writing classes, and those counted for English classes.
I love
So,
that. I love that.
but it was fun.
How to work the American college system to do what you actually want and still get a degree. I love
Yeah,
that.
because I did not actually. I was like a bad essay writer, and I didn't. I don't want to do. I didn't want to be an English major. I just wanted to get a poetry degree, like the master's in poetry. So I was like, I guess this is what I got to do. So
Yeah,
I figured it out and whatever. But
that's hilarious.
anyway, yeah, we should do a whole mythology episode because
Yes, we should.
I love it, but I don't know as much. Okay, so let's see. So yeah, snow. I'm just gonna be kind of looking out for snow. I also think there's a really interesting theme of like hunger, survival. Oh, and you brought up. I think you were the one who we were talking about this maybe at lunch one time about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that episode 1 and here we are talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs with
Oh,
ACOTAR.
it perfectly
It's
makes it all make sense.
she absolutely like if I mean, it's a basic human sort of concept, necessities, things like that. But if she didn't have this fucking pyramid on her wall as she's writing these stories, I would be very surprised.
Oh, and actually, let's define it really quickly, since not everyone may know about it. But well, okay, so it's like this sort of model for. Well, I'm looking at the chart, at the little picture of it right now. But what is it meant to be like? It's meant to be a model of like how we prioritize things, or
Yes. So, like, I'll just read like the description, right? So,
yeah,
Maslow was a psychologist, right? So, he created this list of needs that, like, basic human needs that we all need in our life, and put them into a hierarchical list. It says a hierarchy of needs, uh, motivational theory and psychology comprising 5-tier model of human needs, often depicted in a pyramid. And so
yeah,
it really is just like, when we're like, oh, all you need is like, eat, sleep, have sex. Like, yeah,
mhm.
basic human needs. This is the cycle. Like, this is the sort of branded version
Mhm.
of that. So,
Yeah. So like the bottom is, and mine, I'm looking at a pyramid version of
yeah,
it.
me too.
The bottom is physiological needs. Actually, sex is not, according to this, not part of it, even
Yeah.
though, in this podcast it is. I'm just kidding.
Right.
But yeah, so food, water, shelter, clothing, sleep, and
Yeah.
that's so physiological needs, just like, can you live? And then safety and security. So like, do you have income? You have
Do you
somewhere
have
to
a
be,
house?
family,
Yeah.
social status, health.
Hmm.
So it makes sense that it would be like, okay, first you need these baselines, then the next thing that you need, like, as foundationally,
Yeah.
and then the next one is love and belonging. So friendship, family, intimacy, sense of connection. That's where sex would actually go.
Yeah, well, and then,
Um,
like, the safety and security, the family and social ability there in that second doesn't factor in, like, interpersonal connections. It's just like,
uh,
do you have a parent who can nurse you till you're 5? Like, do
okay,
you like, can someone provide for you until you're able to provide for yourself? Just like the basic, like, do you have a village?
that makes sense.
It doesn't have to be a loving village, and you don't have to feel like you belong in that village, but do you have
Uh,
it? And then it's that next step up that, like, okay, but you actually need to have those human connections and that sort of emotional draw to one another.
yeah, okay. So yeah, that makes sense why it's like safety and then love and belonging. So okay, interesting. And then self-esteem,
Mhm.
confidence, achievement, respect, uniqueness, which I think is an interesting way to talk about it. I guess that is part of self-esteem. And then the top of the pyramid, so only can really, in theory, only reachable when you've done all of these other things,
Yeah.
is self-actualization. So morality, creativity, spontaneity, acceptance, experience, purpose, meaning, and inner potential is what it says.
Mhm.
But the high order things that
Yeah.
honestly probably most people, at least, like, unless you're really struggling financially or something, most people in our society have some form of this.
Yeah.
But it's like definitely something we probably take for granted. So with that, we see like Feyre is clearly at the bottom here, maybe with like the bottom two.
Yeah, I see the bottom 2, like, she does have her family, but, like, her sisters fucking suck. Uh, her
Almost to an
sister
unbelievable degree. Like, it's a little bit like, are these people real?
Yeah, I remember reading this the first time. I was like, "What the fuck is this choice in these characters?" Because they are
Yeah.
the literal fucking worst. And I remember thinking the whole time, like, these bitches are gonna come back, and I just don't know how because she has written them in such a way that I'm like, I don't care if they die. Book 1, I don't care if these girls die,
Yeah.
right?
I was like, maybe she's setting that to be so cruel so that when they die, we don't care that much, but like then we can still talk about it as sad, sort of. But then we
Or
can just deal with them.
or we have a Joffrey moment where we're, like, celebrating the death of a 14-year-old king
Oh God.
because he sucks so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, so she's definitely in like, she's still like, she's hunting, right? Like, even
Hmm.
her physiological needs are not
Yeah.
necessarily being met, right? Sure, there's water because there's snow everywhere, but food, they're starving, right? Sleep, they're all sleeping in one big ass bed, right? So, like,
And their clothes are falling apart.
yeah, so, like, their physiological needs are barely being met, and safety and security is barely being met because, 1, she's constantly talking about how they are never safe, like, living next to the Fae. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't match, they're like, our best day, are still gonna be annihilated." So
Yeah.
even her sense of safety in the mortal lands is completely gone.
Yeah. And actually what you're saying about like sort of sex not being really in the second thing because it's like family might not be loving. Isaac is actually not like a loving
Yeah.
it's like she describes it as like and that's in I think chapter 2 or something, but she describes it as like not like we're not in love, we're just having a release. So
Yeah.
it's almost like, hey, we're just doing the physical aspects of this. We're staying in the second foundation. We can't get to the
Yeah.
third one at all.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. But yeah.
Well, and I feel like that staying in that second space with Isaac is one because, like, fine, maybe she's not actually interested in him, but she doesn't have anything to offer, right? We live in a world where like dowries are a thing, right? And
Yeah.
everyone in this village is, I mean, I guess everyone's not poor because they talk about like the upper echelon,
Mm-hmm.
but she's like, what? I'm like, it's socially impossible for this to become a thing. Why am I going to get attached? I'm just trying to get off.
Just trying to, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I also kind of think that maybe the sisters, part of the reason they're so insufferable is actually because they're living in a different tier, because they do have safety and security and physiological needs met, because Feyre is doing that providing.
They also have love and belonging with each other.
Yeah, exactly. So like they it's weird because like they're just delusional. They just
Hmm.
aren't being realistic and not living in reality. Like they
Yeah.
don't they're like they understand that Feyre's hunting, but like I think they've sort of dissociated and like, or they've just turned, actually another theme that I'm going to come back to throughout, not really yet, but this idea of like looking away, especially when you get to like the boggy and actually Feyre's line in Mist and Fury about like when you look at the darkness long enough, that makes me think that there's this like a theme of like looking away and looking at something, and so that they're putting blinders on and refusing to look at the true situation. And it really, the key is because of Feyre,
Yeah.
which is then weird that like when Feyre leaves, then they get their needs even more met actually. So no matter what,
Yeah.
they never have to think about the bottom two
No, they don't.
at all. And that's very interesting too.
Well, and I feel like because they have the bottom three, right? They have the
Yeah.
physiological needs, safety, security, love, and belonging. There's also a hint at this like beginning levels of this self-esteem, right? Because Nesta is still like, I'm better than this shit. Like
Yeah.
she still has this sense of like individuality, and she is above Feyre, right? That she's like,
Mm-hmm.
you're, little better than a beast kind of a thing,
Yeah.
which is a whole different, like I could talk about Beauty and Beast retelling all
Oh,
day long with this, just
true.
like,
I forgot that this. I forgot that's what the story is.
well, and then I'm like, is that where she started with this? It was just like, oh, I can make this a much better, cooler thing, or like, I don't know. I want to know like the level of intent with that.
Mm.
It's clearly there. Feyre means beauty, right?
Oh, I
And
actually forgot about
it's
that.
on one of the pages. I think it's in. I think it'll be in an episode 2 where she's like, if I didn't look so shit, I would hold up to my namesake. And
Oh
then
yeah,
like,
that's
yeah,
right.
and like Tamlin is a beast. Quite
Yeah,
literally, he's called that on and on and on. So none of them are at self actualization yet. Like that,
yeah,
there's no morality that can be had. Feyre has moments of creativity, um, but yeah, they're few and far between.
yeah, yeah. And it is interesting. And I think it's a really interesting lens, to be honest, because I like, it's one of those things like probably most people like, yeah, I know Maslow, sure, but like you don't really, I don't know, using it to really think about where are they each person on this list. Like
Yeah,
even when we think about Reese, like he's maybe also in the bottom tiers because he's terrified for his life and he's doing these, or he's being like
yeah,
raped constantly and
yeah,
he's just really like suffering. And then but then like he's doing that essentially also so that Moore and Cassian and Valaris can stay in the upper tiers of the pyramid.
yeah,
um which, yeah, it's really interesting. And yeah, anyway, and the reason I think of Reese though is because I'm thinking about Feyre and where she is, and it's kind of running parallel to Reese.
yeah.
Again, probably like a city that understands, but maybe they don't understand yet what is truly happening. Like I wonder if they actually sort of lied to people in Valaris to keep them from trying to leave and go help people, and so they said
Yeah.
everything's fine, there's blah blah blah, this has happened. But anyway, so I was thinking that there's an interesting parallel here too, maybe
I
potentially.
also I also heard a really, really cool theory about Cassian, but
Oh,
yeah, well
for a later
well,
episode.
it's for a later episode.
Okay.
I liked it.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Will you remember it then?
oh yeah,
Okay. Okay.
it was about his sort of status as a bastard and like what does that mean for the story and things like that.
Oh.
It was interesting. I'll yeah.
Oh,
We'll
I would
look
love
at
to also talk about like um what is the word? Like like the role of a bastard within fiction and mythology, because I feel like it's such a common.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Game of Thrones has like a whole bunch of stuff on it. There's like a whole system, right? But I mean, it's a very common thing, and it's also like symbolically, it's like this, this arranged marriage, but then usually a bastard's like, I love pairing, and so there's a really,
Or
I
the
don't know,
or
I love
the
stuff like
adopted
that.
child, right? It's either a
Yes,
bastard or an adopted child,
or
sort of
like even wards in certain kinds of,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we should. Oh, see, there's
Yeah.
so much to talk about. Okay, such a nerd,
Um,
dude. Okay,
one of the things that I am highlighting throughout is anytime that we see a stag or a deer.
yes, okay. Oh, and then she's hunting a deer. So
Yeah,
is that what you're pointing
so
to?
yes, and also like this is a moment where we get a deer and the wolf together.
Yes.
Or at least discussing it says, right, here there were no telltale trees stripped of bark to mark the deer's passing, yet they hadn't moved on. They would remain until the bark ran out and then travel north past the wolf's territory and perhaps into the fairylands of Prynthian. So
Oh.
we get kind of like there, it's not just mortal and fae. There's a wolf territory in the middle here.
Oh.
Where yeah, and then where no immortals will go unless they want to die, and that's connection to Prynthian. But yeah, the stag will start in the mortal realms. They'll travel into the deer or into the wolf territory, and then possibly beyond the wall. Also, how the fuck are they
Mm.
getting beyond the wall? How are animals getting beyond the wall?
That's it. Maybe because it's like a magic wall. Maybe like they're just allowed to go.
Well, it's clearly a magic wall, but
maybe like the wall doesn't apply to them.
yeah, maybe.
But then that makes me think that maybe if Tamlin can transform people into beasts, although maybe it's because he's Fae, they couldn't he just be like
Yeah,
turn into a bird and fly over the wall?
fair.
But maybe not. But yeah, maybe it's because it's like a purely non-magical being. It's like just kind of like there is no wall for the deer, or maybe they just know where the cracks are.
Yeah, right.
I think it's actually really interesting. So, in terms of wolves, obviously we have Crescent City, but also the opening line of Crescent City is there was a wolf at the gallery door. And
Really?
yes, which has always fascinated me ever
Right.
since I read that. And so that's why I always remember it. It's like one of the few first lines I really remember.
And that's
And I'm like, what
Danica, isn't it?
is, yeah, exactly.
Who, I mean, we know is a connection to Fenrir.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right. Like Fenrir is the wolf in Throne of Glass, and Danica's last name is Fender.
Oh, okay. No, sorry. I thought you were actually referring to like some I forget if there's like a Norse mythology, although
There is yeah, there is a Norse mythology. It's Loki's son.
I don't know if you've told me that theory before about them actually being or Danica being like a descendant of him.
Well, it says in Crescent City, like the shifters here are descendants from
Right.
a fae from a different realm that had shifter abilities or whatever. So like the shifters, they're not shifters, they're fae in Crescent City.
That's true. Although in Throne of Glass, though, there's shifters like Lysandra, and then there's actually just people like because they all have like an alternate form, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, weird. It definitely seems like
Can you
that's
tell?
another connection.
Can I tell you, just side note, how fucking gypped I thought Elain was that her animal form was just a human?
No, I thought the same thing. I was like, that's lame.
Yeah, right. I was like, I guess it makes sense because like now she can just
Convenient.
stay in human form, right, and like do her
Mhm.
thing. But I was like, fuck, that's a gyp, man. I'd be like calling the big guy in the sky and be like, this bullshit.
Although, to be fair, if I was locked in a squirrel form, I'd be pissed. So at least she's locked into good form. Aylin's been gathering nuts for like 10 years. I mean, she has in a way.
This is true.
Okay.
Oh my god. That's
Uh,
amazing. Okay, page 2.
yes. Oh, okay. The other thing, so the reason I brought up the wolf at all is because this is a really interesting, weird thing. Like the wolves in Crescent City are like police type deal,
Oh, yeah,
right?
uh-huh.
And here it says that there's the forest, and then there's the wolf territory, and then there's Prythian. It's almost like they're there as a barrier. That's a connection I just thought of just now, because that sounds weird. Like why are we doing that on the first page? And
Yeah.
why is a deer running through wolf territory?
Right.
You think they'd go around?
I
Like,
mean,
that's so weird. Like,
yeah. You're,
that's okay.
you're like,
There's
walk
something there.
east-west, deers, not north-south. Find
Don't
more
go
fucking
through
trees.
your natural enemy's territory. How about
Right.
not that? But anyway, so now I'm cooking a theory a little bit more about maybe the wolf being a protective force. Also, Ash wolves. I don't know. There's something there. I'm gonna figure it out.
I dig
Okay,
this.
so yeah, let's jump. Or do you have a specific spot you wanted to jump to next?
I don't think so.
Oh, actually, okay. Well, I actually do. I also think the wolves maybe are like another sort of like they're natural. They're like natural predator that we would recognize as a natural predator. And they seem kind of like, okay, she has two enemies. She has a wolf like that could kill her, or a fae that could kill her. But in fact, the one that she does kill is a wolf who is a fae. So it's like I feel like it's an interesting mix of like natural versus supernatural dangers. Anyway, I don't know how that theory fully formed, but I will say also silence seems really interesting because obviously the forest is quiet, but it says that when right before she sees the wolf. No, this is on page 4. Um Oh yeah, okay. So down towards the bottom, it says like she's seeing the doe. She's like, my mouth is watering, and she's really excited. And then it says, but there was a pair of golden eyes shining from the brush adjacent to mine.
Mm-hmm.
Line break. That's a paragraph. That's a little paragraph on its own. Then line break. Then the forest went silent. The wind died. Even the snow paused. And obviously, we know that Fae have like they always talk about like I don't know how to say that word preternatural silence.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Preternatural.
yeah, and so it's definitely like, okay, this is our fae, but I also think it makes me think that maybe there's something thematic with silence, and also I do have some vague theories about wind because of like Lanthus and Meryl. I think is also studying wind or some shit. Meryl is like in the Silver Flames. She's like this person.
Right. Yes.
I think because she's studying like Lanthus or something. I don't know. But anyway, wind is one of those things that's also kind of like snow. It doesn't seem like a huge theme, but I'm still putting it in my back pocket and thinking about it.
Yeah.
And also it says the snow paused. And if we think about like the snow being this antagonistic force, the Fae coming out is making even that pause. It's kind of, I don't know, symbolically it's kind of interesting.
Well, and it's also like literarily speaking, right? It's a moment for the reader to be like, shit's about to go down.
Definitely. Yeah, builds
Right?
tension really well. And you're like, oh my god.
It's like when you're watching a movie and like it's the slow-mo of the movie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is cheesy sometimes, but like it's that moment of just like into what's happening before the explosion happens or whatever.
Yeah. And I think the pacing here of the sentence itself makes it not cheesy. But yeah. And I think actually the tone is built really well here too.
Can I just point out that on page 3 and 4, we both have mention of thorns. Okay?
Oh,
so
where?
At the top of page 3, every few minutes of careful searching, I crouched in a cluster of snow-heavy brambles. Through the thorns, I had half-decent view, blah, blah, blah. And then on the next page, the same thing, right? Drawing my bow as a matter of instinct, I peered through the thorns and my breath caught. Okay, so when she is in mortal lands, thorns. Her very first description, if you jump to page 47, her very first description of the spring court is it's veiled in roses and ivy.
Okay. God. That's something that you think I would have fucking noticed. Read these so closely.
I'm like that person who like when the title of a movie is said in the movie and I'm like,
you're like, look guys,
turn it off, we're done, like in movie, right?
Yeah.
That's one of these moments where I'm like, right, so like because they're like, oh, of thorns and roses because it's the spring court and like you have the beauty and the ouchies and Tamlin's kind of fine.
Mm-hmm.
But it actually appears in the book, and like the thorns is that rough hardship of her life as a mortal.
Yeah.
And the first glimpse we get of the spring court is it's shrouded and it's veiled in roses.
Yeah. And there's a line later, I think way later, I'm doing this off the top of my head now, but I think her and Tamlin directly talk about roses and thorns like metaphoric. They're speaking in metaphor about her, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yes. Yeah, where he's like, I love you, thorns and all," or something like that, yeah.
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 So that's where I had my little, like, it's the title moment, but this definitely seems like a more clear one, and it's interesting. Or maybe there's like, initially it was that, and then it sort of flips when honestly, based on needs, right? When this is
Yeah.
her thorns, because this is where her needs are suffering, like in that foundational needs, and then maybe once she gets her life figured out, Tamlin goes from being her rose to her thorn, because
Yeah.
she's now in the upper tiers,
Yeah.
which, with our little hierarchy chart, it makes sense.
I think this whole first section of trying to, and you have it on the notes here, the building a case for hate in her heart.
Totally.
I think it's such a fucking stretch that, like, I don't think that she hates Faye as much as they want us to believe. Or that it's at least easily broken down, because before we even get into it, she's like questioning whether or not Tamlin is her captor or her savior. If
Mm-hmm.
she has this long, deep-seated hatred for Faye, that's not a thought right away. It's just not.
Yeah. She
Even with
seems
even with food in front of your plate, and that might be the thing too, is like, well, maybe it is this deep-seated hatred, but because she has none of these basic needs, that when they provide the very first level of a basic need, they become a savior, which is what
yeah.
allows Tamlin to be a prick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's able to be that kind of abusive boyfriend because he finds her at her lowest.
Yeah. But also she refuses that first meal because she's suspicious of him. So it's not like, but definitely in the overall scope of things, he's for sure doing that.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, we have more ground shuddering when things happen. We have
oh,
we have a not post-coital earthquake. We have a pre-death earthquake. Page 6 towards the bottom. The arrow found its mark on his side, and I could have sworn the ground itself shuddered.
mm, yeah,
Which, like,
yeah.
again, I guess if you're looking for signs for it being, like, if Faye is a real thing,
Mm-hmm.
and because I was always like, why is she going straight here? Like, it's a fucking wolf. Like, why is her head going straight to it might be Faye? And, like, granted, there's other signs to show it,
Mm-hmm. It's like really big,
and it is a reality of her world, but there's things in here that I'm like, how does she know this?
well, I think she knows it because she.
Has a collective unconscious as being Faye herself?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
no. I think we talked about this in the first episode, but I do think that she is something. Like, even if she
Yeah.
wasn't made the way that she was, she never did. She never went to Prithian. She's still. Her parents are suspicious as hell, and
Yeah.
she is something. Okay, so
Do you think that she would have entered the settling?
yeah, that's like something
Yeah.
I'm entertaining. Or like, I don't know if witches like settle, but I feel like she's got some witch in her, or maybe
Yeah.
her mom is like either a seer or a witch or something, or some kind of other fae. Like, I don't know, maybe her mom's a Vanir, from Crescent City. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
then you have to assume that we are jumping planets and people can do that. But I don't know. There's something with her,
Yeah.
and I do notice this in the way that she reacts to things, and like her instincts are like seem to be, she knows a little too much. Now, maybe this is just meant to show she's perceptive. Like, if she's nothing, if she truly was just a human, maybe it's just to build some tension and to do whatever. You could also say that maybe that's an issue with the writing. Like, that's just bad writing, and that's why it feels weird to us. But I try not, I always acknowledge this could just be bad writing, but also acknowledge, but maybe it's pointing
Yeah.
to something that's going to be revealed later.
Well, and it could be, right? Like, we're not starving humans, right? It could just be like what
Yeah.
hunting looks like, right? You're overly
You're
alert and
always thinking
overly
about
aware.
Faye. Yeah.
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 Also, I don't think that she shoots him a second time out of hatred. I think she shoots it out of fear.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. I think her, like, if you like, we're racist people.
Yeah.
It's really hard to eradicate that. You have to really work through,
Yeah.
like, I mean, as we're feeling the effects of, right? Like, I just think that racism is such a, like, if we're thinking about like true prejudice, if you really do hate them, and maybe we're defining hate differently. Maybe hate just means fear. I don't know. There's a lot of metaphorical and literal ways we could talk about hate. Here's the other thing is that if we're trying to build a case for hate in our heart, which I think is kind of it's what it feels like since reading it, knowing the ending. But with that would assume that like she almost did break the curse, but that would require that she actually loved Tamlin. But so that's why I think maybe what she actually did was she solved the riddle. And so maybe her only hope was solving the riddle, and like she was actually not going to break the curse. She was just pretty close. But do we assume that she really loved Tamlin? Maybe she did.
To break the curse, well, I guess because he was already back in Amarantha's like control or whatever. But like, couldn't she have just like shown up under the mountain and be like, "Hey, that's my guy. I love him."
Yeah, well,
and the curse would have been broken.
Yeah,
but I think it's because it didn't happen before that 50-year mark.
The deadline.
The deadline.
Yeah, but maybe it wouldn't have worked anyway.
That's true.
And then because maybe this isn't real hate, or maybe
maybe it's not real love.
Exactly. That's what I was like. Maybe she doesn't really have hate, and maybe she doesn't really have love, and that thank God she solved the riddle.
I don't know. Riddle. Like, I cannot wait till we get to the riddle. That's so far away, but like, it's both like. Anyways, it's both like beautiful and also the lamest fucking answer in the world, but it is what it is. Page 7, we have Rhys.
Rhys. Where?
Color and darkness world, editing my vision, mixing with the snow.
Anytime we see darkness, we're gonna be like, it's Rhys.
Yeah, darkness, shadows. It's always our boy Rhys.
And I mean, there's clear references that do seem like actually Rhys, and maybe this is Rhys a little bit. Yeah, sorry, did I interrupt you?
No, but in chapter 2, when she starts talking about the what we know now are word marks on her house.
Oh yeah. Okay, so we're moving to chapter 2?
Yeah.
Okay. Although I will say the ending of chapter 1, it does sort of build that curse a little bit more. Like I wish I had in it to feel remorse. I feel like that's another case for the hate thing. And then again, the lasting image of the forest in winter is like another snow thing. And
well, then that comes, it like full circles the chapter, right? We start with the image of the forest as a labyrinth, and then we end with it as like, but it was the forest and it's winter.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah.
So the bottom of this page 9.
Yes.
Bits of ice came free from the gray stones of the cottage, revealing the faded ward markings echoed through the threshold. My father had once convinced a passing charlatan to trade the engravings against fairy harm in exchange for one of his wood carvings. He is not being charlataned, I guess, right?
Yeah. Well,
this guy didn't come to the house. Well, sure, but like this guy didn't come to the house and be like, "Hey, I got a goods to sell." And they're going to work and it's going to be great and it's totally fine. This was the dad pushing the deal.
Yeah. Well, I have a lot of theories about this part. Like maybe it's not a passing charlatan. Maybe he just doesn't want his kids to know about his secret.
That's what I'm saying.
Knowledge. And this is actually a friend. This is maybe someone
And even regardless, the dad has knowledge enough of warding to be like, "Hey, please do this for my house, and I don't have anything else to give you, but like I'll give you my little fucking wooden chess pieces."
Yeah.
If you'll put this up in the house. Like it feels like the dad is seeking out this on the house as opposed to, right? Like the door-to-door seller who knocks and is like, "Hey, I have this ability to ward your house." And the dad's like, "Yeah, no, it's not going to happen because I don't believe this shit." No, it's the dad being like, "I got a good that I get, like, please do this.
Please do this for me." Yeah.
Yeah. And then it speaks to, one, is it just like, old mythology and things like that where, humans, this is just like a thing that happens because like wardings and wearing iron and ash, wood, things like just knowledge of how to protect against Fae, because the reality is they live in a world where it exists.
Yeah.
Or is this something more to the knowledge of what her father possesses?
Yeah. And it could be like, I always say, I tend to think no, he knows something. He's got he's somebody. So maybe it's because he's also a world traveler. Like, so maybe he's crossed this great ocean.
Also, again, I'm jumping ahead, but like,
Mhm.
who told him that his daughter's turned into Fae? You know what I mean? Like, there's a whole
Yeah.
episode of what Papa Archeron is doing with himself when the girls are in Printheon. Then I'm
Yeah.
like, hold up. What's this
What's
mofo up to? Like, what's
yeah.
he doing
Well,
with himself?
and that's why I'm like, no, he's going to see old context that he, like, maybe he got ousted or exiled. Maybe he just was like, fuck you
Yeah.
guys. Or maybe he fell in love with their mother and she's like, okay, maybe she was exiled. You know, for some reason they had to go live in the human realms.
Yeah. It just doesn't seem as simple as owing a debtor.
Oh yeah, that's true too. I mean, yeah, even like doing a stupid deal, like knowing you're crossing one of the most dangerous things with a whole bunch of money, like really he's that cocky with so much of their fortune that they lost
Yeah.
everything. Now people do sink their life and do stupid shit. All
Yeah,
like
for
people do
sure.
this, you know. But
Which is the reason why the daughters could hate him even more. Like, how could you be such a fucking idiot?
well, and it seems like a ruse. Like maybe he didn't really lose that money like that.
I think we both understand that like there's something with the word markings. Could be a couple things though. I think like there's a world where like, you know, iron doesn't really work against Fae. So maybe this is just another one of those things. Maybe word marks don't work in this world. We
Yeah.
sort of get the sense that maybe they work in every world because of what I think with the cauldron and those markings. And I have my theory is that word marks like sort of are like interworld magic that like works no matter where you are, but maybe not. And so maybe it is truly just like the iron, just people being stupid and ignorant and not understanding how
But we get
Feyre works.
a confirmation that word and erd marks
Yeah.
in Crescent City are the same, and there's efficacy in
Yeah.
erd markings.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it would seem weird
Like
to
yeah.
have it not also have some sort of like
Yeah.
power within this realm as well.
Yeah, and that's why. So yeah, that's why. Like, I'm sort of holding. It's possible that maybe he is just a dumb guy, but I
Yeah.
do think it sounds like maybe he.
Or what it's warding against is not actually Faye coming into the house, that it's
Mm,
warding against something completely different, like fucking memory.
oh, and like
Or
like memory.
yeah, like, you know, it's warding against memory, or it's warding against whatever it is that would mark them as Faye.
Oh yeah, maybe it's disguising them instead of keeping
Yeah.
people out.
Yeah.
That is interesting. Okay, yeah, yeah. So
Or
I'm
that
like,
it keeps them in, right?
mm,
What is the reason? Like, I get that they're starving and they haven't been married, but like they're they're all gonna leave their dad at some point, right?
hmm,
Not Feyre, right? She wants to just fucking
yeah,
forever, but like she was not gonna stay in that fucking place forever either and just chill with her dad, who she also doesn't like. Like, she doesn't hate
hmm.
him, but I feel like there's definitely a grudge and like a
It's kind of like a ugh, you suck, but
it's
whatever.
tense. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
she loves him, but I feel like there's a lot of like, fuck, why are you such a pain in my ass? And like, why are you like not trying harder? And then you gotta wonder, why is he not trying harder?
Yeah, I know. That is the real. Now that okay, so why is he not trying harder? If we go with like he's got this knowledge, he knows that there are maybe he's waiting for somebody. Like maybe he truly thinks that or maybe he's just also delusional, or maybe he's got Nesta levels of depression that we'll see in book 5,
Yeah.
right? And so he's just actually just cannot like but
Yeah.
I do think
Or,
yeah, maybe
right?
he
Or Mama Archeron is a seer and told him to just fucking stay put. Who
true.
knows?
I love
Right?
that too.
Like, who knows?
There's something, but yeah, I get the sense that he either knew that guy from before and was just pretending and was like, "Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
pay you in this," and his daughters are like, "I guess," or he like just saw a guy and he goes, "That guy knows what's up.
Yep.
I'm gonna get that." So
Yeah.
yeah, I think there's something to the
Well,
fact that there's word marks here.
especially because on the next page, right, it says there was little. Sorry, I'm starting on the one before. There was so little that my father was ever able to do for us that I hadn't possessed the heart to tell him that the engravings were useless and undoubtedly fake.
Hmm.
Mortals didn't possess magic, didn't possess any of the superior strength or speed of fairy or high fae. The man claiming some high fae blood in his ancestry had just carved the whorls and swirls and runes around the door and windows, uttering a few nonsense words, and ambled on his way.
By the way, with that, whorls are also what is always referred to as like Reese's tattoo is whorls of ink. Her tattoo, whorls of ink. It's just a weird word, so I notice and remember it.
I also saw another theory about Reese's tattoos, but again, this is later in the series.
Okay. I know it's yeah. But sorry, go ahead. Did I interrupt you?
No, not at all.
Yeah, no, there's definitely well, and also like Bryce's thing is that is it a requirement? I can't remember now. Is it like a thing with Starborn they have to be born of a mortal woman or something? Or is that just Bryce? I don't know why I thought there was something with like the fact that she's a human woman with a Fey dad. Or maybe I'm just thinking of parallel, like maybe whatever. No, maybe not. But anyway, so we definitely know that they can breed. They did have kids before, and they could intermarry and stuff, and they just haven't for 500 years. But it's it is also something like you could be a scammer doing this and be totally fine. Like it could just be a scammer, but I don't think so. It's in the first. We're setting up the series.
Yeah, I just want to know why her parents suck so hard. Like dad is lazy, and mom sounds like the most abusive mother I've ever heard in my life.
Grooming Nesta to do her will,
right? And then like nobody gives a shit about Elain apparently. So like sometimes Elain feels like middle child syndrome, but like not really. But like how she died 11 years ago, right? In the book. So Feyre's 8. She tells Feyre at 8, stay with them, take care of them. That makes no fucking sense.
Yeah. Although what I realized during this read through was that actually Nessa's only 3 years older than her, and if Nessa's the oldest, Elain's, that means she had one kid every year for 3 years straight. So maybe they feel less like older and younger siblings. They just feel like maybe a set of triplets because they're so close in age. Like they're sort of all Irish twin. I don't know. Whatever. So I was like, maybe that's why. But I do kind of think maybe Feyre is something else. Like maybe she's
I think of all 3 of them to be something else, I think it would be Nesta.
Really?
It says that she was born like just different.
True. But then why? But I feel like if we go with our theory that mother is Fey or witch or something, maybe she understands that Feyre is the one who's going to have the shit together, or knows that Feyre is like something else, whatever. And so that's why she tells her, is because she knows that Feyre has more power than the other sisters.
Also, who's to say that she didn't say this to the other girls?
That's true. Yeah, maybe they're all they're just breaking their promise.
Yeah, we're only getting Feyre's perspective. And Feyre never tells her sisters or her dad that she made this promise. So who's to say that mom wasn't telling them all, stick together, take care of each other? Which would make so much more fucking sense as a parent to like tell, I mean, you might want to do it together, but like, to be like, don't like, I mean, I guess like it's a dark thought, but like I've said some weird shit to my kids. It's like, hey, like at some point it's going to be you two. Like mom and dad aren't going to be here forever.
Take care of each
like,
other.
Yeah, you guys can't be fucking assholes to each other and you can't hate each other. They're 3 and 5. And I talk to them like this, so it's problematic. But like you can't be assholes to each other because at some point it's just you two against the world.
Yeah.
But I have that conversation together.
Well, okay, maybe she told Nesta, like, you have to keep the family's image and you have to make sure that and that's why Nesta's such a bitch and is so prideful. No, I think it's also Nesta's instinct too, but maybe she knew that Nesta had that instinct, and so that's why she told her.
I just don't know how you pour a bunch of money into one daughter to teach her how to dance. You can't teach the other one how to read. It's just beyond me.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. Like, okay, reading. Are you telling me that Feyre's 8 and hasn't learned to read, and they're only 11 and learned to read fully, and they're totally fine? Like
my daughter's 5; she's learning how to read.
Well, like and maybe they learned at different times in like Fey.
Sure, but the capacity to learn how to read happens at 4 or 5.
You definitely get the sense that Feyre's neglected to some degree. Yeah.
Sure.
And but maybe like Nesta's from a different father, and that's why she's favored by the mother, because it's like her true love. And
she also has not talked about any resemblance with the dad. She's always talked about how she resembles her mom,
the mom. But then Feyre and Elain look like the dad.
Yeah. Have you heard, I mean, the like idea of like you have your heir and your spare, right?
Sure, yeah.
Like, Nesta kind of feels like the
The
heir,
heir.
right? Like, you're like, you gotta fucking be hoity-toity, and you have to have all of the, like,
Yeah.
rich people mannerisms and know the goings on of, and not court life, but basically. Whereas, like, Feyre and Elain aren't held to that same status, and so I'm wondering if there's something there.
Elaine sort of feels at times like she does. Like, and it says like her mother knew that Elaine would marry for beauty or something. Like her mother knew that she could give Elaine away for for
For love.
whatever, and then Nesta was for power. Somewhere
Yeah.
it says somewhere in the books at some point. We're sure we'll get there. But so yeah, and then but then Feyre is like this weird spare.
Yeah.
That's I've even speculated maybe Feyre was from another woman. Like maybe it's like that because that's like classic, almost like step.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why she was
She's
like
got a Jon Snow feel to her.
she really does. She has that. There's no really evidence, but she does have that feel.
Yeah.
Um,
I love that here on page 11, we already get that, like, Elaine sometimes just didn't grasp things.
yeah,
Like, poor baby Elaine. Like, and you wonder if it's, like, an
he
actual
seems like the third
personality.
child.
Yes. But, like, you
Mm.
wonder if it's an actual personality character flaw that, like, she's just kind of, I don't know, naive, ignorant, has less capacity to sort of view the world around her. Or if she's ignoring it, right? She's just like,
Yeah,
it's
they
easier
all
for
seem like
not
they're
to.
doing that. Yeah,
Yeah. Um, or she's constantly mothered, right?
yes,
Nesta doesn't let her do a fucking thing.
yeah,
And,
and
like,
Feyre does it to
and
some extent
Feyre
too.
doesn't ask her to do anything, right? Oh, who's chopping wood? Nesta, right? Why,
It's
Nesta, you're
weird.
always coming at me trying to ask for money. Like, yeah, Elaine needs a new cloak, but, like, Nesta wants boots and she doesn't even fucking need them,
Yeah,
right? Like, there's always this, like protection over Elaine, and you're like,
yeah,
cool. Elaine doesn't have to think. She
yeah.
could just smell her fucking flowers and someone's gonna do some shit for her.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I mean, and also with like okay, sibling dynamics. Feyre, Nesta only seems like maybe an oldest child because she is bossy. But really, Feyre seems like the oldest child for sure.
Yeah.
Nesta is actually sort of classic middle child because she's a little bitch.
Yeah.
And then like Elaine seems like okay, it would make so much more sense if Elaine was the third child because
Yeah.
like we're sort of similar, and then this is the baby we have to protect. And
Yeah.
honestly, she gives vibes like maybe Nesta and Feyre are Irish twins born within very close time frame, and then Elaine is 10 years younger than them. That's what would make sense.
Yeah.
But instead we get this weird thing, and even when Tamlin comes in, she's like, I knew Nesta would protect Elaine. I was like, why are we thinking like this? Like,
What? Yeah.
I don't know. Or maybe Elaine has some secret power that they knew they have to protect instinctually. Maybe that's they're feeling some kind of weird instincts.
Or Elaine's just a fucking idiot, and and they're
Yeah.
like, and hopefully throwing her into the cauldron gave her not just seer abilities, but fucking
hmm
just cognitive abilities, apparently.
Maybe, or okay. So my sort of pet theory is that they were already something before they were made. So maybe the cauldron just took like maybe Elaine was always going to be a seer. She was going to settle or drop or whatever the fuck. But maybe the cauldron just sped it up and just made it happen right away.
Yeah.
Maybe it would have been in her like 30s or something. Because that would also explain this like kind of head in the clouds
Yeah.
vibes.
Can we
Yes.
talk about how her parents aren't named?
Yes. Oh my gosh, Nameless.
Yeah, her
Yeah.
dad is Nameless, right? He has a title. He's like what, the king of merchants or
Prince of
whatever.
Merchants, which
Prince of
there's
Merchants.
something in there too.
Yeah, but yeah, he doesn't have a name. Neither does Mama Archeron, right? They're
And
not named.
I will
And
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
and like the Nameless thing, right?
Yes.
Is like you forfeit your own identity in for the sake of something, right?
Mhm.
And granted, like, you know, the king maybe didn't do that willingly the same way that Aelin did,
Yeah.
but he did do that, right? Like, he had
Yeah.
to give over his entire fucking personhood, one for Valg to take in, but for
Mhm.
power, right?
Yeah,
And he
yeah.
was seeking power. That's how he opened the coffin in the first place, seeking
Right.
power. So, like, even if it wasn't as willing as Aelin's, like, Nameless is my price, it was his price too. So I'm wondering, like, what is it that they forfeit for their name?
Yeah.
Names are
Okay.
names are important
Yeah.
regardless, ever. Names are
Absolutely.
important in literature, and just as a weird little side note, right? Culturally speaking, right? Names are super important when it comes to religious texts, and specifically within Judaism. And we know that Sarah is Jewish
Hmm.
and pulls some from some of that. So, like, it's not absurd to think that, like,
Hmm.
there's a reason why she doesn't overlook anything. And it's not like, oh, people don't need to know that his name is Brian, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, she
Brian
intentionally
Archeron.
right. But she intentionally doesn't give us their names, and the kids know it. My kids know my name. How would their kids not know their names?
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I think like when you have somebody who's notable, you're often like, honestly, I have a dad who's like really notable. Like people always go, they refer to him by his first and last name because he has this kind of. My dad is just like such a personality. He's like this mythical person. But people all go, oh, that's I'm not
Yeah.
gonna say his name, but anyway, like
Oh,
he's like
your dad's
really,
Bob Smith?
yeah, it's like that.
Yeah. Mhm.
And maybe they say the owner of this or the prince of merchants, but you say people's names
Yeah.
interchangeably. Like the more well, like if somebody is the prince of merchants, they're not just known as the prince of merchants. People know their name. Like they seem like they should be very connected and famous.
Yeah, it would be
Um,
Brian, the Prince of Merchants.
yeah, and so yeah, I just think it's weird. Like if they're so big and notable, why don't we know their name? If
Yeah.
nothing else, like in your head, she's sort of thinking of I'm the daughter of so and so,
Yeah.
Brian Archeron. And
Yeah.
now they do have a last name though, which not a lot.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of last names, but there's a clear last name, and that's if anything the identifier that like I'm an Archeron.
Yeah.
But
But we still don't ever get it attributed directly to him. It's the girls' last names.
really, it's not. They don't talk about it in
He's
relation to
never
him.
called, like, Mr. Archeron, right?
Hmm.
And, like, I feel like the name isn't necessarily there's no place in the book if you took out like, if you only looked at places that talked about the parents, you would not get any indication of their name first or last.
Oh, yeah. It is weird. It's very weird.
Also, why is the last names baffles me in this series anyways, because,
Yeah, there's
like
like two last names.
yeah, and, like, so what are you hiding, Miss
Yeah.
Moss, with these last names?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
no Vin, we're gonna see a Vincera. We're gonna see whatever Reese's last name is for sure.
Dannon.
Um I think it's a Havillard.
You think it's
Um
Hilliard?
or yeah, however you say it. Oh, by the way,
Interesting.
people are gonna get you for saying Prythian.
Why? What the fuck is it?
It's Prythian. There's no second.
Prithian?
There's no first N. But I mean, I think you should say it however you've been
Whatever
saying
the
it.
fuck.
But I just anticipate people commenting it, or probably no
Yeah,
one will ever listen to
yeah,
this. But if they ever do, they're gonna tease
whatever.
you a little bit. I
That's
think it's
fine.
cute.
That's fine.
But
Uh,
yeah, and yeah, he's always referred to as my father too.
yeah.
Um,
I don't know. I just found it weird that, like, everyone in the house has a first and last name and the parents don't.
yeah. Um,
Sorry, I have a note here. I don't know why, but on page 13, I just wrote, like, God, her family sucks. Those like my handwritten marginal notes.
yeah, yeah. My one note on page. Oh, that's page 12.
Mhm.
Or yeah, page 12 was like, Nesta is talking about like her dad being ashamed, and I'm like, except you're the same bitch. Like I wrote you have the same pride. That's what
Yeah,
I wrote in there.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, let's talk about chapter 2. So basically this is just where she's essentially just actually no, in chapter 2 she's walking back. Essentially she walks back, she brings the kills home. We get the first descriptions of the sisters and the dad and a lot of the interpersonal,
We
and
get
then
we get the painting and we get our iconic drawers. That's page 15, chapter 2.
yes,
Yep.
yes. And then we end with like the there's no such thing as hope or love or something
Yeah.
that Feyre says, very very emo. um
That's at the end of the chapter?
yeah, that's the ending line. Which yeah, I mean
Oh, I wrote So she's talking about her mom. So this is page 15 to 16, right? She's talking about her mom, um, right? That they have like the forks from the servants' quarters because all their
Mm.
shit was taken. And then you get to page 16, and it says, um, "My mother." That's a sentence. So
My mother.
yeah,
Curious and
impu-
cold.
yeah, imperious and cold with her children, joyous and dazzling among her peers who frequented our former estate, doting on my father, the one person whom she truly loved and
Mm.
respected. Are they mates?
Ooh, yeah, they totally seem like it. But also, yeah, it seems weird to have this person who we sort of perceive as like a be like doting.
Yeah, I just feel like it's really interesting the dynamics, right? That her mom is cold with her, and like, cold and imperious, right? So like
Mhm.
strict and unloving with her children. She's joyous and dazzling in front of her peers, right? So she a fake bitch, but she dotes on on the father, right? That she loves, that he's the only person that she truly loved and respected, which is weird
Yeah.
if those are your children.
That came from this person that you love.
Yeah,
Although maybe
I'm wondering. I'm wondering if they're even their kids at all, or if all three of them were just smuggled out of
given to her by the cauldron because she made some kind of crazy oath.
some. Well, that
Just
or
kidding.
like, yeah, no, I don't know, but it just feels like I know that we get like a familial like phenotype connections, right? Like they look like their parents,
Yes.
but it just the relationship is just so weird to me. It doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't know. I maybe it's
It
just me
feels
being a mom.
cartoonishly mean.
Yeah,
Like
it.
not really
But
believable.
yeah, but it feels like Disney stepmom vibes, which
Yeah.
as a retelling of a Disney story, I guess. But
Mhm.
yeah, I
I
don't
don't
know.
know about Belle's mom. I just
Yeah,
there
she's
is no
dead.
mom in
No,
right?
she's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know. I just thought it's an interesting dynamic to like lean
Mhm.
into and be like, what is happening here? This is the
Yeah.
first time that we actually get what the vow was, right? Stay together and look after them. Um,
Yeah. It's interesting that she like it maybe it's just the leftovers like knowing Faye rules and stuff, but like people are like very she harps on over and over in these first couple chapters about like it's my vow. And also I found that my first read through I was like, come on, this doesn't really who cares? So I was
yeah,
like maybe there really is like maybe the humans can feel the magic of a bargain. Or maybe they just it's like cultural memory from when
maybe.
bargains were like I don't know if do you have to be Fae to have a bargain have that magical binding. I would
No, because she
think
gets it when she's
maybe,
human.
but it's half that Reese is like is Fae, so maybe it's because he's Fae that the bargain will be like a bargain.
Yeah, I suppose you'd have to have a bargain like with a fae.
Yeah, but like I'm like so, but
But can humans create a bargain too? They don't have any magic. So maybe that's why it is your word is your bond, because there's nothing that's actually there's nothing that actually holds you to it
yeah. Or
except for
maybe
your
it
own
does
honor.
somewhat work as like that and they just don't understand the magic. So maybe they just take it super seriously because that's the
Yeah.
magic doing that to them. Um, but I tend to think that I don't really buy into her um like commitment mentally to the bargain. But that's why I was like maybe her mom is doing a bargain with her
Yeah.
and that's why she has these kind of almost unnatural thoughts about like I've got to do this. I've made a bond. And it kind of feels weirdly robotic, but maybe it's because it's not.
She also made the promise when she was 8.
Yeah, you kind of mythologize things that are from especially a last moment of your parents'
Yes.
life. Like
Yes, for
so
sure.
yeah, it could be like a mix of things too. But I do wonder about what if that bargain is actually being upheld and stuff.
Yeah.
Um
I do
yeah, I
think
was
that
sorry.
this like banter between the sisters is kind of like telling and interesting, that like
Mhm.
you get so much personality in just like one page.
Yeah, especially from Nesta too.
Yeah.
It's like
One
take those
doesn't.
disgusting clothes off and you look like an
Yeah.
animal.
And like, you know, I'm gonna get out of this place because I'm gonna marry up kind of a thing. Um,
Mhm. Which she's been groomed to do.
she is. Um, I do love that Elaine, again, in just like the space of like whimsical love, like naive, ignorant, like he wants to marry her because he loves her. Like she's just like in that space where like, Nesta's like, I'm getting out of this bitch. And
Yeah.
Elaine's like, because they love each other. And Nesta's like, no, because I need to not be here.
Yeah.
Although I do love that, like, you can't chop wood for us, but you want to marry a wood chopper's son. That's very funny.
Sassy.
Um,
Yeah. I do think it's interesting that Feyre has such, especially if you think about the sibling dynamics, Feyre has like total authority. She's like, you're not gonna marry him. And I was like, would a youngest child speak this way?
or
Like,
like, what stop? I mean, she does, like, Nesta does say, like, what could you do about it?
yeah.
But yeah,
And then we get the mention of Claire Bedor too.
yeah, like the next we do, but like on page 18, right? Believe me, I said to her, the day you want to marry someone worthy, I'll march you up to his house and hand you over, but you're not going to marry Thomas.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Nesta says there's nothing you can do.
Yeah. But you really get the sense that Feyre is the authority
Yeah.
here. Which would make sense for an oldest child. But like, I'm an oldest child. I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah,
me
I
too.
say
Yeah.
what's what. People will be a little bitch about it, but they're
Yeah.
not gonna really
Yeah.
defy me. And part of that is like the oldest is smartest, so because they're more developed, so they actually tend to have ideas that get followed because they're more logical.
Although, if there's a dowry involved, even a small
Yeah.
one, Feyre is the one who is holding on the money.
Yeah. She
Or
has the money. Well, again, more oldest sibling behavior,
this is true. Yeah.
Like, sorry, middle childs don't cook dinner when mom's at work still. I mean,
No.
it's okay. Some do, but I'm a biased oldest child, so
Yeah.
it just screams oldest child to me. Oh, by the way, I thought we should also mention the ironwood bed. I think a lot of people notice this, but like, ironwood really sounds like a witch thing.
This is true.
And of course they keep, and maybe it's just that it's ironwood, not iron, so maybe they don't see it as protective.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right? But I don't know what ironwood and iron have to do with each other. We'll get a carpenter on one day. Just kidding.
I do think that we get a glimpse at like how ruthless Nesta can be with how she
Uh-huh.
treats people. Just like right there in front of God and everybody is just like, at least I don't have to like run around in the hay like an
I
animal. Just like
know.
right there. I'm sorry, just right in front of Dad. We're just gonna have this conversation right now. And then like, and then even on the next page when she's um, like, what do you know? You're just a half wild beast with the nerve to bark orders at us all hours of the day and night. Keep it up, and someday, Pharaoh, you'll have no one left to remember you or care that you even existed. Like, I get like sisters can be real fucking brutal with their words to each other, but you're like, Jesus, Nesta. Like, this girl is literally going out and hunting to feed you and is
Yeah.
putting food on your plate and is allowing you to survive. And that's what we're saying to her. Okay.
It's so shameless. Like, it almost speaks to like, honestly, like personality disorder levels of
Yeah.
delusion. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, girl, well,
Yeah.
I think it's just, people have different sort of trauma responses. So maybe she cannot bear any reality. So she's just living in this land where she still has her, importance and her
Yeah.
standing. And so, but it is crazy to just like look at this person who's providing for you and be like, fuck you. Not that you can't criticize people who like give you, but it's still like, I don't know. I would be embarrassed to talk like that to someone,
Yeah.
especially when you can feel like my boots are falling apart, whatever, blah blah. Or you're really feeling it, you're facing it all the time. How can
Yeah.
you just be like that? And the dad is the only one who really notices the cost. Like, he's like, Feyre, where'd you get this?
Yeah.
And, he doesn't do much to stop it, but he at least acknowledges it a little bit. So I was like, okay, this is somebody, there's at least some care here.
Yeah.
um
I do think he loves his girls,
yeah.
but I think that he sucks.
Oh, I will say on that page, let's see, let me go to it before they get into all that yapping. Yeah, it says his dark eyes flicked to mine. Feyre, where did you get this? And then she says the same place I got the deer. And then he's kind of looking there. It has a really ominous tone as well. Like, it
Mhm.
feels like a very slow, kind of like the whole room stops scene. I think it even says on the next page, like, yeah, my sisters had gone quiet. And she said I had no other choice. But I honestly, it kind of feels like, is he realizing that it's a fae? Because he has like a sense, and then he's like,
I mean,
"You have a
maybe
fae skin here."
could you
Um,
could you imagine if like Tamlin's magic ran out after he died, like after she skinned him, and like she comes home and just like plops,
a human skin.
and that's why he's like, "Where did you get this?"
What the fuck? Yeah, maybe it's glamored, and he can see through glamours. Maybe. And he's like, ew, ew.
Like, really? Really, Feyre? You just, like, brought me back
You
from
had no other choice? You had to skin a person?
Oh, my laugh sounds
Oh.
terrible because I have a cold. Oh my god, that's so funny. She just, like,
Dude,
full on, like, Jeffrey Dahmer just plop on the table.
oh my god, yeah. Yeah, man, well, if he's someone or he has some kind of whatever he
Yeah,
has,
yeah, maybe.
maybe, yeah, maybe it does look like that. That's crazy. Ugh, ugh. But,
Yeah,
I wanted to notice that he definitely noticed it for sure.
I do find it interesting, like, we already get this, like, hint at what kind of character Thomas is, right? Um,
Uh-huh.
when the dad's like, if it's love, like, what can I say? And she's like, it can't be. Not on his part, not with his wretched family. I've seen the way he
Mhm.
acts around the village, and there's only one thing he wants for her, and it's not her hand. And, like, I don't know if you've read the bonus chapters,
Mhm.
but there's a Nesta
Oh,
bonus
right, right.
chapter where she talks about, like, Thomas nearly
They,
assaulting
like,
her.
corner her and he pushes up against the
Yeah, he,
wall.
like, basically, like, almost assaults her. She only gets away because she, like, kicks him. Um, I'm kind of sad that that wasn't just canon in the book already. I think that
I
I don't know.
consider it canon if it's a bonus chapter, no?
Sure, but it's not in the Kindle version. It's only in the
Mm.
Barnes& and Noble release, which, like, I get capitalism, but it's also a pain in the ass. Um, and I think it would have made this more impactful at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we
Well, I
do
think it happens when Feyre leaves, actually. I think that
it
scene
does,
is
but
yeah.
that's what I'm saying, like, it would make it when you come back around, you're like, "Oh, yeah, no, this guy is not great." Like,
Yeah, I do think it's interesting that she's like, "It can't be love," and he's like, "Let's just let her be delusional." And he says, "Oh, we have to have hope." And I'm like, "It's not hope. It's like lying." Like it's like being I don't know. I think it's interesting. Oh, also, where is it? Oh, I think actually we passed it. But we have to mention the cloak.
well, yes. Yeah,
We got to mention
Elain
cloaks. I
needs the
mean,
cloak.
any mention of a cloak we're talking about.
We're
But
talking
yeah,
Turiel, we're talking yeah.
Elain, that's her one kind of most character.
Yeah.
Her most defining moment, one of them is like the fact that she's like, I'm freezing with my raggedy old cloak.
She doesn't
Um,
get a cloak, though.
yeah, and also I think she's not really freezing. She has like a fine cloak.
Yeah.
Whereas there's another character who really did need that warm cloak.
Yep.
And I don't know, but I immediately go, okay, we're noticing this.
Yeah, for
Yeah. Did
sure.
you think of anything about that, or did you notice that when you read that?
I did notice it the second read through, and I feel like it's just one of those, like, things that I'm just gonna kinda clock, as,
I'll
like
shiver to death. That's what she says.
what was
I'll
it? Oh,
shiver to death.
yeah. Yeah, and I think I think it's more of a thematic thing, like, what's the power
Mhm,
of a cloak in these series? What does
mhm.
it mean to have, like, something warm and protective?
And it's a symbol of kindness
But
and
it's a yeah,
bonding.
yeah,
Yeah.
and when we can keep ourselves together to get to the next chapters, when we start talk about the merchant, like, the cloak, I think,
Yes.
factors into those themes, but that's next time we record. The merchant, I feel like we're just gonna talk for forever about, but or the
Oh my god.
mercenary? The
I have a
mercenary?
whole, like, section on the
Yeah,
mercenary.
yeah. But I think that the first 2 chapters do really well to sum up the, like, level of destitution, right?
Yes.
And the level
The state of the
of
family.
the state of the family, the level of hunger, and just, like, how desperate they are. I think it does
Mhm.
a really good job in very few I mean, it's 20 pages, in very few pages to give us the family dynamics in a very clear way. Like, Nesta, bitch, Feyre does all the things, Elain, whimsical, fucking
Mhm.
unicorns, fairies in her own space. And I think it does it in a way that's it's not expositional, right? We get that through dialogue. Um, yeah, no, I find it to be interesting. And I think coming back to it, I think that it is clear enough to give us the character introductions, but also has all of these things that we could do this with, right? We've talked for an hour and a half about 2 chapters because she's
Yeah.
done it in a way that you're like, well, there's clues here, and we just don't know where they go yet. Um,
Yes.
and
So
yeah,
I'm interested to see what if book 6 or whatever is it? I think it's book 6 that will speak to some of this.
well, and starting to look at, like, right, chapter 2, he says, like, let her keep hope. she can imagine. It's not hope that she says it's no such thing. He says, let her imagine a better life, a better world.
I know. I was like, a better world.
Yeah, and that's what she says. There's no such thing. And I think that comes back a few times throughout the series of her being like, I never thought that there was going to be a better world, and here I am, kind of a thing. And so I think this is the beginning of that, like, just absolute, like, certainty that this is as good as it's ever going to get.
Yeah.
Which makes her finding her place above the wall all that more meaningful,
impactful. Yeah. And then, you know, I think the mercenary reminds me of Throne of Glass too. So, you know, because like, yeah, we'll talk about the mercenary, but like I was like, here's a better world. Then we have a mercenary who's doing an act of kindness. Like, so I was like, these are something.
Yeah, it reminds me of, I think it was the mercenary in Throne of Glass with the spider silk.
Oh, yeah, Lysandra's dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has that kind of feel for sure.
Yeah.
I have one last thing. I mean, my theme of looking away. The last line, when I looked at my father, my gaze was hard. There is no such thing. I think, to me, I'm like, you're looking at it so hard that you, I don't know, this looking at the reality, looking away thing. I think it points to that. Anyway, so I just wanted to mention that.
With her looking as hard as she is and saying it doesn't get better, because that's her reality that she's actually looking at, versus the sisters who still have hope because they're refusing to acknowledge the realities of their existence.
She really is. You can really. That's the thing about this chapter. It cements her as like the absolute glue that's put. She is the thing that keeps the family together. But yeah, I think I personally, you know, if I was, you know, starting a podcast, I was like, we're doing this, like we're doing it, not like, you know, I always am like, whenever I would listen to stuff, even about other books, or, you know, I've listened to lots of like Harry Potter podcasts. That's kind of what I grew up sort of doing. But I was like, we didn't mention this, or you didn't talk about this, and I still think there's stuff we probably forgot to mention. That's the crazy thing. But yeah, I like a really, really deep dive. That's kind of what the point. But yeah, well, cool. Okay,
Yeah.
so, and next week we're gonna talk at least chapters 3 probably to 5, but maybe a little bit more depending on honestly how off topic we actually get.
I think there might be enough to have a whole episode from 3 to 5, or at least 3 to 4, of like wrapping up what's going on with, because it's the next chapter that we finally get Tamlin, right?
No.
Chapter 4.
At the very end of chapter 3, the door bursts open, I think, and then I think 4 is with Tamlin and then her leaving.
Plenty of things to talk about. So next episode, let's do 3-4 for next episode.
And we're jumping into the mercenary the next episode.
Yes,
I'm excited to talk about that. I have so many thoughts.
Okay. All right.